So today we are discussing the work of the Kybalion and the three initiatives. This book was introduced to me earlier in the year, and I'm very grateful that it came across my desk and into my life. Before I give a summary of this book and the areas that resonated with me and how it's helped my life, I wanted to give a snapshot as to where I was when I received the book and the direction I was moving in when it came into my life. When I received this book, I was in the infancy of my spiritual awakening. And I was in a place in my life where I was experiencing life mainly through the lens of the five senses. But there was still this knowingness that whatever I was experiencing wasn't enough. There was this gap that I was feeling. To put it simply, I was living through the lens of my conditioning and in my programming. So because of that, I was living on the effects side of things. I found myself oftentimes in situations that were not in true alignment. And despite whatever achievements I had, despite whatever was going on in my life that should have been successful, I still felt as though there was a gap. So whether it was in relationships or entrepreneurship, I felt oftentimes overworked, overwhelmed. I felt burnt out. I felt like I was living in my conditioning. I felt I was creating from a place of scarcity and fear and limited beliefs. And here's the thing, prior to this, I didn't realize this. If you asked me, I would have said this was not true. I didn't realize that I was living in my conditioning. I didn't realize that a lot of my motivating factors were coming from a place of fear and scarcity. But it was through these experiences that my awakening occurred. It was through this that I began to remove the veil of conditioning. I was asked to look at my life differently. And if you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at will change. I felt this unwavering belief that I was being pulled in a direction of the truth, my truth. And in order to align with that truth, I had to have trust. I had to have faith that whatever internally was guiding me had my best interest in mind. It was pulling me towards my intuition. And when I started to listen to it, I began to respond more to life. And I realized the signs, the symbols, and synchronicities that were drawing me towards this book and having the book also being drawn towards me. The Kybalion states, lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of the understanding. Had I encountered this ancient text any earlier in my life, I would not have been ready to absorb the teachings in this book. As for the Kybalion, when the student is ready to hear, then cometh the lips of wisdom to fill them, right? It's only when you are ready to receive the knowledge that the knowledge will receive you. When the frequency you hold aligns with the frequency of the text, the frequency you hold will allow your ears to be open to a place where you are ready to hear. And the frequency of the book will allow the lips of wisdom to translate that wisdom to you. These teachings have been borrowed from several nations: India, Persia, Japan, ancient Greece, and Rome, and have come down to us over the centuries by its founder, Hermes Trismegistus. They call him the scribe of God who dwelled in old Egypt. The Kybalion is full of maxims, axioms, and precepts, which are non-understandable to the outsider, but are readily understandable to the student after they are explained. And these teachings are considered the master key to open the door of occultism. They're not just meant to be read, but they're meant to be embodied. The work of the Kybalion is to give the student knowledge that will enable them to deal with the complexities of life. However, the challenge is when one is not ready to receive the knowledge, they don't appreciate the knowledge. They will judge it and criticize it and resist accepting it. The truth is, one's level of consciousness will truly determine if they are at a place where they can accept the concepts that reside in this book. The lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of the understanding, which means they wouldn't share this knowledge with people who weren't ready to understand it. Because when you're trying to teach someone something, when they're not ready to learn it, it will fall on deaf ears. To force knowledge on someone who isn't ready to accept it, that knowledge will be lost. For instance, you cannot force an addict to go into recovery, even though those around them know that this is what's best for the addict. The addict must be at a place where they are ready to accept it, ready to listen, and ready to grow. And by being ready, the information that they receive in recovery will allow them to evolve, right? Everyone knows that a good night's sleep is good for your health. It's important for your health, but not everyone does it. People resist it for various reasons. Therefore, it's only when one is ready to change their lifestyle will they begin to see the benefits that have always been there. Therefore, the teachings of the Kybalion are meant for those who are at a place of awareness and consciousness and are ready to transcend the way they've been doing things. So the 7 Hermetic principles, which the entire Hermetic principles are based on, are the principles of mentalism, the principles of correspondence, the principles of vibration, the principles of polarity, the principles of rhythm, the principles of cause effect, and the principles of gender. So first we want to start with the principle of mentalism, which states the all is mind and the universe is mental, meaning that the all is spirit and spirit is the essence of everything and can be referred to as infinite living mind, right? Thus, the underlying reality of the universe is mind and the universe itself is mental and residing in the all. Therefore, the mental universe is simply mental creation of the all, meaning the precursor to what we know of as matter and substance and all of creation is spirit and infinite living mind. You know, the quote goes, under the back of the universe of time, space, and change is ever to be found the substantial reality, the fundamental truth. Meaning, under and behind all outward appearances, there must always be substantial reality. To understand something of substance or to create something real, there must be something substantial behind it, something that precedes anything that can come from form, something that is constant, that is not changeable, something that precedes what we experience as form and matter. And this is what the Hermetics refer to as the all or spirit. When you understand that the all is mind and the universe is mental, you begin to understand the importance of the principle of mentalism with respect to mental transmutation. If the all is mind and the universe is mental, the mentalism or mental transmutation is changing the elements of the universe. Therefore, mental transmutation allows one to use the principles of mentalism to bring thoughts and imagination into form, meaning one's thoughts have the capability of shaping one's reality, and one's reality is a reflection of one's thoughts. And it's only when you grasp this concept do you begin to know how powerful you are. A lot of the work that you see or have read in New Thought phenomenon in the early 1900s, Thomas Trowell, Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, Neville Goddard, William Walker Atkinson, or James Allen, they encompass the fundamentals of the principle of mentalism. When you understand these principles, you realize that thought and imagination have the power to bring things into form. And when you align with what you are thinking about, the universe will bring people, places, and things to solidify your experiences. Now, the key is to hold an unwavering belief in that thought, align with the imagination, and surrender to the process and allow the change and transformation to take place. The challenge that many of us face is because we reside in the material plane, we believe that true change and transformation also takes place on the material plane. So when things are not working the way we want, and when our outside world is not congruent with what we desire in our lives, we lean towards changing the outside world. We feel that by changing the outside world through force and hard work and hustle and grind, we will acquire what we want in life. And yes, don't get me wrong, although this is one way to achieve success and this is one way to do things in life, this is not the only way. When we force things in our physical plane, because we're used to, we are not using the laws are using us. But when we understand the laws of mentalism, we realize that creation comes from using one's mind rather than using brute force. So although we reside in this physical plane as a spirit having this physical experience, it's important for us to understand that in order to transmutate matter into what you want on this physical plane, you must align with the higher planes, knowing that what happens on the higher planes will change what happens on the lower planes. You know, we have to remember that everything that has ever been created has always come from imagination, whether positive or negative. And a lot of our limiting beliefs, fears, and decisions have come from programming or past experiences. And when we align with these negative beliefs, we end up making decisions out of fear or a false sense of security. And then this becomes hardwired into our DNA, right? And these limited beliefs become impressed in our subconscious. And it's through mental transmutation that we learn how to remove these disempowering thoughts that we're projecting outwards into the world, right? The more we remove these fears, the more we'll notice that our confidence will go up. And as a result, we'll begin to tap into aspects of our imagination that align with our desires. You know, when I started this entrepreneur journey, I would hear things that were disempowering. You know, along the journey, people who don't hold your vision are going to tell you, like, you can't do this, or why don't you find something easier, or why don't you just do something that has guaranteed income, or a lot of entrepreneurs end in failure. And this can apply to any dream or ambition that someone has. And what I've learned is, you know, someone can tell you that you can't achieve something, and oftentimes they're just projecting their own limited beliefs onto you. But what's important to note is whether you believe them or not, you are right, because whatever thoughts are infused in your mind will be brought forth. So we need to be mindful of what information we accept and what we take in, right? It is negative thoughts, doubts, fears, and limited beliefs that you have to remove. And once you remove these fears, you won't experience them anymore. We have to remember that everything you experience in your five senses, which seems so real, is just coming from your imagination. And when one begins to apply this knowledge, they begin the process of transcending their experiences. One of the Hermetic teachers wrote, "He who grasps the truth of mental nature of the universe is well advanced on their path to mastery." When you grasp the principles of mentalism, you no longer create by default. You become a conscious creator, and you use the laws of your life to create more ease and flow. You understand that the all, infinite mind, or spirit is the substantial essence behind everything. And when you understand this principle, you have the foundation to bring what you desire into form. And this is the key. You create in your mind now what you want to experience today. And if you see that what you want to experience is not part of your present reality, that's okay. Maybe there's doubt there. Maybe there's uncertainty there. Maybe this is something you need to look at, but this is not a bad thing. This just means that there's a difference between what you want and what you believe you can have. And when you see the gaps, then you know what to work on and how to fill them. The principle of correspondence is the second of the Hermetic teachings. And this states, as above, so below, as below, so above. This principle implies that there are many different planes beyond our knowing, which apply to the physical, mental, and spiritual universe. Meaning everything, all planes of existence are connected and in correspondence. The part is in the whole and the whole is in the part. The macrocosm is part of the microcosm and vice versa. As below, so above means your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. Therefore, what you experience through your five senses is a direct reflection of what's happening internally. If you take a look at all the positive things in your life, the love, the joy, the happiness, it's all correlated to what's happening within. And at the same time, this can be said for the negative experiences that you have. What you experience on your outside is a reflection of what's happening within. We have our inner world and we have our outer world. And true growth comes from your inside world. But through this journey of life, there's a point where we believe that our outer world has power and control over us. So as a result, we invest all our energy into changing the outer world. But it's through this journey of awakening and consciousness and awareness that we come to realize that we are spirit in this human form, navigating this physical plane. And during this experience on this physical plane, we are subject to conditioning and programming. And this programming comes from people, places, and circumstances. But it's through these experiences that we're taught to believe that true power, inauthentic power, is obtained in the outside world. So as a result, we're constantly chasing and running after and forcing things to happen because we've subscribed to the belief that happiness comes from outside ourselves. Happiness comes from hard work. Happiness comes from the constant chase. Happiness comes from the new position, and happiness comes from more money. We believe that changing our outside world will make us happier, but this is not true power. This is not authentic power. And this is the shift that's required. Moving through the journey of self-development allows you to take your power back. You realize that you have control, and it starts from within your inner world. We learn that our outer world is just a reflection of our inner world. And this is how we change. We start to change our inner world so the outer world will change. As above, so below. When we fuse the principles of mentalism and correspondence, we understand that to attempt to change circumstances before you change what's happening within is to struggle against the very nature of things, right? You can't have change in the outside world unless you have change on the inside world, because to do so is just to scratch the surface. And this is what the principle of correspondence speaks to. The principle of correspondence is about changing the inner so the outer changes. Going within, removing limited beliefs, impressing on positivity on the subconscious, because what is impressed in the subconscious is what's going to be expressed in your reality. And when you change your self-image, you will change the world in which you live in, right? It's not about going out and changing people and circumstances, right? These people and circumstances are your guides. They're revealing to you who you truly are. The path is there to guide you towards more harmony, ease, and flow. For me, when I realized that the key to happiness is to go within, it removed a lot of unnecessary stress that came up, because I was relying on the external factors. When I began to see my outer as a reflection of my inner, it gave me the insights that I needed, and it showed me what I needed to work on. I began to see my outside world as a guide, constantly guiding me towards my evolution, constantly guiding me to be better. And when your outside world is not congruent with what you desire for yourself, you can easily go within and start to make the changes that you need that are aligned with your desires. The key takeaway when I look at the principle of correspondence is at the end of the day, if you believe that happiness is found from the outer world, you will constantly try to manipulate your outer world to experience happiness. So by default, what you're saying is you're relying on your external circumstances for happiness. But when those things are removed, what happens? The question you need to ask yourself is, who do you want to become on this journey? Is this someone that understands that true happiness is achieved in the inner world and expressed on the outer world? Because when you understand this, you become less reactive to the outer world. You navigate the outer world with more ease and flow, because the obstacles which were once hidden from your view are now in plain sight, and they're easily avoidable. The principle of vibration: nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. The Kybalion. This principle implies that everything has a vibrational frequency to it. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, and words often carry a vibrational frequency. Therefore, you attract what you are, not what you want. If we begin to look at this through the lens of emotions, we understand that emotions carry high vibrational frequencies and others will carry a low vibrational frequency. Emotions such as sadness, fear, jealousy will carry a low frequency than love and confidence, right? So it's about remembering that you attract what you are, not what you want. So if you're sitting in a low vibration of fear and doubt, as per the laws of correspondence, you will experience fear and doubt in your outside world, that people, places, and circumstances will come into your life to reflect that fear, right? As we use the laws, we begin to understand that we can apply the laws of polarity and mentalism to shift our frequency from an undesirable state to a more desirable state, thus moving from fear to a place of confidence. All emotions carry vibrations, and how we feel impacts our energetic field, which impacts what we experience, how others experience us, what we attract, and how we attract it. Our thoughts, your thoughts and feelings have vibration. So what you think impacts how you feel and what you attract into your life. Therefore, the basic rule is like will attract like. Love is going to bring more love. Fear is going to bring more fear. Doubt will bring more doubt. Anger will bring more anger. Insecurities will bring more insecurities. Hence why people with the fear consciousness attract more doubt into their life. It's about understanding your vibrational frequency, because once you do, you'll understand what you are attracting into your life. When you understand these laws, you understand that it's not about changing your external circumstances, but rather it's about changing what lies within. This is why spending time with like-minded people is so important. When you're in the ecosystem of positive people who are in a higher vibration, they'll be less inclined to have negative thoughts, and their positive thoughts will be energized and infectious. Just merely being in their presence is beneficial. This principle embodies the truth that everything vibrates, nothing rests. When you understand your vibrational frequency, you understand that you can attract towards you that which you're conscious of being. The principle of polarity: everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has their pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half truths. All paradox may be reconciled. The Kybalion. The principle embodies the truth that everything is dual, everything is the same but different in degree. Thus, everything exists on a continuum. To the Hermetics, he who understood this would master the art of shifting from one state to another, as they would understand that all states have an equal and opposite counterstate, thus making them identical in nature but different in degree. For instance, take heat and cold. There is no such thing as absolute heat and absolute cold, which are just forms of vibration. Similar are mental states: love and hate, like and dislike, which are simple degrees of the same thing. Same goes for sadness and joy, anger and acceptance, love and hate, fear and tranquility, not good enough and good enough, pessimism and optimism, worry and enjoyment, lack and abundance. When you understand this, you realize that what moves you from love to hate is just a difference in degrees of vibration. And by understanding the Hermetic principles, you will have the tools to shift your state of vibration so you can polarize yourself toward that in which you want to experience. A good way for anyone to experiment with this is to take personal inventory of their situation and the negative thoughts or emotions that they are currently experiencing. See what is the opposite of the emotion that they are currently experiencing and begin to let go of the unwanted situation while allowing room for what they want to experience, the positive emotion, to come in. The person that says, I never have a good relationship and no one treats me well, can also say that I find myself in great relationships and my partners treat me with love and respect. But it's a matter of polarizing yourself to the state that you desire. But this is the beginning of how we use polarity instead of the laws using us. When we let go of the negative feeling, we adopt the positive feeling, and then we imprint this on our subconscious. And when we imprint this on the subconscious, we raise our vibration and we begin to experience more positivity in our world. And this is how we experience mastery and greatness. When polarity is working against you, we tend to live in our conditioning, thus living in our limited beliefs. And we tend to cling on these things and we resist the positive self, the true self. But a way to shift our polarity is to see that what we think we can't do is actually a choice of we won't do. And when we look at why people say I won't, it's usually because of negative feelings. But we need to learn to let these negative feelings go and accept the positive side, what the soul desires and what we're being pulled towards. The Kybalion refers to this as neutralizing. By doing this, we shift our polarity so we can maintain the desired state. As we do this, we raise our vibration and we align with our higher self. And as a result, we become aware that there is something in us that is greater, that wants to be expressed and wants to release itself, and it wants to come out of hiding. And this is how we shift our polarity and we begin to align with our desires. We move from the place of being a victim to one who's empowered. We move from the side of the effect to the side of the cause, from disempowering beliefs to empowering beliefs. And as you stay within your desired state, people, places, and circumstances will align with your vibration and help you bring your desires into reality. For me, I'm just starting my YouTube page and podcast. So I'm in the infancy of this journey. But I believe that by following these laws, I can polarize myself from where I currently am to where I desire to be. And growth for me will be growth for the collective. And I know a lot of people will feel comfortable speaking about these concepts once they've achieved some success, right? Because it serves as a proof of concept. But for me, this success is incremental. The success is a daily success. Every day I grow, I feel success. Every day I'm aligned with my higher self, I feel success. Every day I'm removing the things that are not congruent with what I desire, and I'm aligning with the things that I desire, I feel success. Every day I feel gratitude and I'm excited to see who I encounter because I know the people, places, and circumstances are guiding me and polarizing me to where I want to be. I feel success. So sometimes it's not about the numbers. It's about just knowing on a day-to-day basis that we are constantly growing. We can polarize ourselves to where we want to be. We can neutralize ourselves to feel what we want, but it's about applying the concepts, having unwavering faith in it, and knowing that as long as I apply these concepts and I believe it and I use my senses, I can align myself with where I want to be. The principle of rhythm, everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. The principle embodies the truth that everything has a cadence and a rhythmic flow. What comes up must come down. The tides rise, they will eventually fall. Empires rise and empires fall. The sun comes up, the sun falls. Seasons change from winter, summer, spring, fall. Emotions change, feelings change. You have rhythmic cycles to your sleeping and to your breathing. And when you are born, you're preparing for life. And at a certain point, your body starts preparing for death. Life ebbs and flows and constantly changes. The table was once a tree, and what you eat once was in the ground. Everything you see before you is in a transitional form. And when you understand this, you understand that nothing is constant except change. It's about knowing that you're going to have several experiences in life, some favorable, some not as favorable. But rather than fixating on something that isn't ideal, know that it too will pass as per the laws of rhythm. The principle of rhythm is closely related to the principle of vibration and polarity. The law of vibration states that everything is constantly moving and nothing rests, while the law of polarity states that everything is dual and has its pair of opposites. So therefore, the law of rhythm incorporates the two concepts, indicating that everything is always changing and nothing is permanent. When one understands this, they can use the law instead of being used by it. They know that temporary discomfort is exactly that. It's temporary. When you are aware of this, one can prepare themselves so they are better able to face these discomforts and shift their vibrations so they are better equipped to face the rising and falling of the tides of their own lives. To transcend above this law, you can neutralize yourself so you're not impacted by the rhythmic shifts. If you look at relationships, throughout relationships and entrepreneurship, there's going to be challenge, and you're going to encounter a lot of stressful moments. You can learn to accept the stressful moment for what it is and not allow it to impact your mental state. And to do this, you apply the laws of neutralization, right? You're not allowing yourself to be overly attached emotionally to a situation. You acknowledge it for what it is, but you also create space to allow it to pass. When we are feeling low, we can remind ourselves that nothing is constant. Everything is changing. Everything will change. And whatever undesirable feeling I'm experiencing now will soon pass. If you keep a positive mindset, you will see everything as a growth opportunity to help you evolve and bring you closer to your higher self. And when you see things that way, you become more grounded and more confident. You'll be less likely to be pulled in every direction. If we get stuck in our ways, we can resist change. But if we see change as helping us evolve, we experience more freedom. And once we understand change is part of the rhythmic cycle, you don't become overly attached or affected by highs and lows that you encounter. You develop a sense of self-mastery, and that allows you to move with grace and flow. And like the Hermetic said, the master Hermetic polarizes himself at the point at which he desires to rest, and then neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum, which would tend to carry him to the other pole. All individuals who attained any degree of self-mastery do this to a certain degree, more or less unconsciously, but the masters do this consciously. The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law, but not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. This goes back to the simple statement that nothing happens by chance. There's always a chain of causes that speak to whatever effect you're experiencing. When one is not aware of the principle of cause, they live in their effect. And to live in the effect can feel turbulent. It can feel unfair, and it can feel like things are constantly happening to you or happening against you. And you can end up seeing life as unfair or constantly giving you the short end of the stick. Now, when you're on the effect side of the equation, you are easily programmed by your environment, right? Simply being in one's energy has the potential to condition us, right? Everything from the news to social media to people, places, and circumstances we find ourselves in have the potential to condition us and shift us out of alignment and move us towards what we think we should be doing versus what we truly want to do. When we understand the principles of cause and effect, we start to take our power back. You take your power back when you begin to influence the cause and you're less impacted by the effects. The 5-sensory human who relies solely on the physical senses is often on the effect side of things because for them, nothing exists beyond the 5 senses. Whereas the multisensory human who experiences life beyond the 5 senses will find themselves on the cause side, and they will learn to leverage the causes that occur on the different planes that affect what happens on the physical plane. The multisensory human will use the Hermetic principles to shift the causes so they can experience what they want to experience as the effects. And the Hermetics go on to say that one who understands how to raise themselves to the higher planes will always be part of the cause and not on the effect side. They will use the principle of mentalism. All is mind in the universe is mental. And they will use their mind as a tool to create what they desire to experience in their reality via imagination and thoughts. They will use the principle of correspondence, as above, so below. And they will make sure that their inner world is congruent and aligned with their outer world because what they believe in their inner world will be projected in their reality. They will use the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves. And they will make sure that their vibrational frequency aligns with the frequency on that which they desire. And they will use the principle of polarity. Everything is dual. All truths are but half truths. If they're experiencing something in their reality that's not congruent with what they want, they will polarize themselves to the state that's congruent with their desires. According to Newton's third law, every action has an equal and positive reaction. Every cause has an effect. And when you understand this principle, you can use it instead of being used by the principle. The more you read books like this, the more you understand how to raise your consciousness and awareness. You're aware that there are various planes and the higher planes dominate over the lower planes. And when you understand this, you become a conscious creator, man. You no longer create on default, right? Things don't just merely happen. The energy that you put out is the energy that you will receive. And you understand how to align with the cause so you can get the desired effects that you want. The principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Gender has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes, the Kybalion. Every element has its masculine and feminine components to it, thus making it whole. And when you honor the masculine and feminine energy, you create balance and harmony. When one possesses too much masculine energy or too much feminine energy, they can be out of alignment. On the physical plane, gender is seen as sex, but it's important to note that on the higher planes, it consists of an energetic essence. For example, if you take a look at the atom itself, it's made up of protons and electrons, which are the masculine and feminine in nature that create the whole universe, right? And as we begin to align and embody the Hermetic principles, we begin to understand that energetic alignment is the thread that unifies all these principles. In the Hermetic teachings, the principle of gender state that there's gender in everything. Everything has within it its masculine and feminine principles. The principle of gender is the foundation of all things, forming an endless circle of existence. To conclude, the Kybalion has been an important, eye-opening book for me. It's been a book that I incorporate in a lot of my readings and I share with others as well. I've aligned it with my work with NLP and human design and energy to allow me to have more ease and flow in my life. And I believe it's one of the most important occult books of the 20th century. This book is really about providing you with the way to transform your life so you can navigate this world with more ease and flow. The principles in these books are timeless. So this is something you can come back to over and over again. And as you raise your consciousness and you raise your awareness, you'll notice that the messaging is slightly different each time. This wasn't a book that I heard of, but this was a book that was introduced to me when the timing is right. So I believe that for anyone who has landed on this page, who's reading this now, who has read the book, it's going to gravitate towards you when you are ready to gravitate towards it.